All right, guys, welcome back. Strong Life Podcast. This is Zach Evanesh. If you're listening, I've been recording these and putting them on YouTube as well. And I hope they're helping you guys out. This episode, we've got Q&A, pulled questions off of Instagram. And I had some stuff that I wanted to cover that I put in my notes. I wanted to talk about the Soviet system of training younger athletes, so we got some good training conversation in here. And if you've been listening or if you're new, just want to let you guys know we have the Underground Strength Conference coming up, Underground Strength Con, November 15th and 16th. The discount code early bird registration is already active, so make sure you get signed up for that. Very, very powerful experience. Last year was the second one we ever did, and it was awesome. The coaches in attendance were telling me how they needed that event for their soul, how they're sick of the influencer bullshit. And some coaches were crying, I think, because they came to terms with doing what's in their heart rather than constantly looking at what other coaches are doing, trying to impress other people. And so, all the coaches who will be speaking, nobody is an influencer. You know, we got guys like Joe Ken, NFL Strength Coach of the Year, Ron McKeefrey. He's been NSCA Division One Strength Coach of the Year. Ron has worked for NFL, Division One, Major League Baseball, consulted with companies. His topic is going to be CEO Strength Coach. Love it. Brian Kopelman, movie producer and director. He's going to be talking about the creative process, the mindset behind being a creator, and really how to do things when you even have doubt creeping into your mind, or the people around you are telling you, "Don't do this. I can't wait for that." And a lot of the times, the speakers we have, they're flying under the radar. You don't know about them. They're not these big influencers. So go to undergroundstrengthcon.com. Going to be amazing. So let's get into these questions, and also, of course, go to zachstrength.com. You can watch on YouTube because I will be doing I don't know if it's a review, but a video I saw in relation to a question that I saw coming up on Instagram. So one of the first questions comes from Johnny Van Brill. I love this kid. I got to work with him at Rutgers, got to work with his brother Mike. I love this family. You know, sometimes I talk about like the favorite athletes I have trained, and I have mentioned these guys, but John Van Brill has a question about sleep. And before I get into that, I want to talk about, I've mentioned him before if you've been a loyal listener. And I've said it's been very rare that I've had athletes I work with who call somebody else out, who really hold the line of the culture in the school. And so, a couple of my favorite moments with him. Number one, I remember in the summertime, I did a challenge with the wrestlers, and it was across a variety of, I guess, like fitness components, so to speak: strength, power, muscular endurance, conditioning, toughness. And I remember every time things got hard, this guy got tougher. So, for example, max pull ups, I remember counting his pull-ups, and as he started getting fatigued, his grip went from full grip to kind of fingers. Then he was at like three fingers. Then he's doing pull-ups with two fingers. And I was like, holy crap, this kid has zero quit in his body. Like, he just did not know how to stop. So however many pull-ups he did, I think it was like just shy of 30, or maybe it was just over 30. All I thought to myself is like, this dude, Johnny Van Brill, needs to be a Navy SEAL. And then some of my other favorite moments of this was a kid showed up on the wrestling team late to a workout. And I think we started our summer workouts at 10 a.m. And he was walking up at 10:15, and we were outside. And as soon as he saw that kid, his teammate, whatever the kid's name was, he's like, "Hey, 10 a.m. means 10 a.m." Dude took off his lanyard and like tries fighting Johnny. And John was completely unfazed and had zero fear. He was ready to throw down to uphold the standard of the team. And I thought that was amazing. And another one of my favorites, this was when before X was X, it was Twitter. You guys see this a lot. An athlete will say, I want to thank God. I'm so blessed to receive an offer from Rutgers. I want to thank, my coaches, my parents. And somebody had said that about Rutgers. And he said, we don't tweet offers. We only tweet about commitment. And I said, God dang it, I love this kid. Was the best. And we don't see that much or at all. Teammates calling out other teammates. That is something that college athletes and high school athletes, big time, are afraid to do. And the only other time I've seen an athlete hold the line like that was at Lehigh working with Nate Brown, and I've mentioned him many times as well. And so I don't like to say these were my favorite guys to work with, but those were some of my favorite guys to work with because of their integrity, their loyalty. I mean, forget it. Today, there's totally not a whole lot of that going on. And so I love this kid. Very hard worker. And by the way, if you're in South Jersey, look up Van Brill Pools. Amazing. So let's get to it. This is a question, of course, by Johnny and his work schedule and work ethic. He's still coaching wrestling. He's actually still competing in wrestling, as is his brother Mikey. Says, how important is sleep? Can you function at a high level on 5 to 6 hours? And I think the question got cut off there. How much is too much? And he may have said, how much is too little? I think when you're young, you could get away with functioning at 5 to 6 hours, but you will not function at your best. You will not you will not give your body the best opportunity to recover physically and also mentally. And that also impacts the body and the mind psychologically. Now, a lot of people might be saying, well, Jocko Willink, goes to bed at 12 at night and wakes up at 4:30 and he needs 4:30. He needs 4.5 hours of sleep. He's one in a million. The old saying of get 8 hours of sleep is an old saying because it's true and it's powerful. When your body gets into those later stages of sleep, your recovery gets maximized. You wake up feeling 100 times better, more energized. Your body feels better. Also, your immune system is better. And I'm already like feeling like I haven't been sick for a long time, but I feel getting a little congested. By the way, when I drink my coffee, instead of adding sugar, I add raw honey. And sorry for slurping, but I don't care. So, John has a very busy schedule. He wakes up early with the pool company business. They start doing that manual labor early. He operates heavy machinery and moves a lot of heavy equipment and heavy supplies. And he's working pretty much all day. Then he runs the Seagull Wrestling Club, which is evenings. And then he's probably getting in a little bit of social life, a little bit of family time and whatnot. And so the 5 to 6 hours, let's say going to bed at midnight, waking up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., it's not that good. And also going to sleep after the midnight hours. I'm not a sleep expert. You would probably want to do more research and just go on YouTube, look up Dr. Kirk Parsley. But he talks about where and how your body recovers during different stages of sleep and different times. And so, guys, it's not odd for me at my age. I'm a couple months shy of age 50, which is insane. It's actually kind of scary. Um, it's not odd for me in bed at 9:30 or 10. There are certainly some times I stay up a little bit later, like on a weekend or staying up late. My kid or kids are out and I'm just kind of waiting around nervously and just being a dad. But if I ever start feeling a little bit off, a little bit run down, I start getting to bed earlier. Okay. There's been times where I get to bed at 8:30. And then instead of waking up at 5:30, I'll add another hour of sleep in the morning. So I'll get to bed an hour earlier and wake up an hour later and not do my writing and podcasting in the morning. So that's for my boy, Johnny Van Brill. All right. Also, guys, get over to my website, zachstrength.com, and get your free training courses. And then any questions you have, training or certain topics, type it into the search bar. Okay. Take a little sip of coffee here. Also want to thank Defend USA, compression recovery gear. This is actually one of their pajama shirts that I'm wearing. They have amazing compression gear. My kids use it. You know, my daughter plays tennis, son plays baseball. So elbow sleeves, compression shorts, compression shirts, pajamas, and even casual wear they have. But I love their compression gear, especially as we quote unquote get older, but really for all athletes when you're training. I love the compression shorts and the tights. Keeps like your hips, your groin, your knees, they just feel like locked in place. I really love it. And believe it or not, you know, a guy who's a kind of a simplistic type trainee coach, I don't wear weightlifting belts, shoes. You know, it's like I'm a guy from the golden era when they would be training in flip flops. I never wore compression gear, even though I heard Louis Simmons talking about, 20 plus years ago. So highly recommended so you stay healthy. All right, my buddy, Professor Griff, you've seen him on the old Underground Strength manual covers, the old Underground Strength photos. He says, when is the OG lifting session going to take place? Requirements for the Edison Gym alumni. And Griffin and I trained together at Diamond Gym. So when he was done with college wrestling and I was in my early years of teaching, him and I would drive up to Diamond Gym together and we just had friggin' killer workouts. We went to Diamond Gym, then we trained at Apollo Gym together. Always my best and most intense workouts have been with former wrestlers who were training for bodybuilding, and we killed it. And he's still crushing it. And so I want to say something about the Edison Gym. I'll post those photos up on Instagram. I actually posted some older, it was like a highlight reel on Instagram. You'll want to check it out. The physiques of those wrestlers were very, very Spartan like. They were lean, they were muscular, they were tough. And I want to talk about what it took to get there. Today, I've said most athletes train twice a week, strength training. Those kids were training 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week, strength training. If they were training 3 days a week, they would do the training session that was planned for the group. Then they always stayed after another 30 minutes. And it was not odd for some of those kids to stay after another hour. They would create their own workout and they would train in groups and they would do stuff that they liked. They would do stuff that they had to work on, to attack their weak points. And I thought it was amazing, the looking back now at the volume of work they did. And I compare it to athletes of today who really struggle with showing up. I think their parents are also, the parents of today don't understand the power of strength training. And they wonder, how does my kid get faster? How does my, son stop having shoulder pain, arm pain, or my daughter who plays softball, baseball? Well, the answer is in strength training. And I know the big rage is on speed and jumping, which we do a lot of. But one thing our athletes were in those early days of the underground where they were much stronger and their physiques really showed that. And so I'm actually going to do a screen share so you guys can get an idea here for those of you watching. So we're going to do a share. Um, let's see. All right. We'll just share the desktop. There we go. And so see the gym folder. You can see here's my buddy Griffin that I was telling you about. You can see just his back muscles shredded here. Sandbag training. This was at the playground down the street of the elementary school I went to. This is curls. Not a good picture. You could see we took pictures back then. I had digital camera. There was no camera on the phone back then. Look how big and strong he was. He trained with quite a lot of frequency. And let's see if we can find gym photos here. Check it out. And so I'll have to find the Edison crew here. These photos are not high resolution. This photo right here may have been taken with this photo not this one. This photo may have been taken with a BlackBerry. I think this was 2010, but these were some of the kids from Rutgers right here. This is Greg Zanetti. This is Mike DeMarco. Look at Ray Jazz. May have been ninth or 10th grade. This kid, Mike, was a four-time county champ. This is Greg, who actually became one of the guys on The Bachelor. I wish I could remember this kid's name. I think his name was Zach. He was one of the kids we trained who was going to one of the prep schools. Dylan would just stay after and constantly work. Travis Woods was one of the weaker middle school kids I trained out of my garage, but just stuck to the plan. And we kept getting him better. And let's see if I got a photo of these guys. No, I'll have to post it up on Instagram. But you could just see the physiques of these athletes. Everybody was lean and muscular. And I think that's saying something about back then, not just how they trained, but also the food. And so while we're here, I'm going to open up a Instagram video I sent and go into this next question. All right. So one of the questions that was brought up by Corey Schlesinger. And Corey is a strength coach. I believe he's with the Phoenix Suns. He's in the NBA. And he said, being a strength coach, he's like, we don't even need strength coaches. He's like, what if we just had physical preparation coaches? And it's funny when he said that, really where this evolved from and started was the Soviets were doing this before I was even born. So I think that's funny that sometimes we're saying things, but we don't give context. We don't tell people where this originated from, where this started. So let's see if I could open up this video here. I'm not sure if that'll work. Okay. So you could see here, this is, I'm not sure where they're located. Let's take a look. Kagnat Wrestling, Kyrgyzstan. So I think that's one of the Russian states. And look at these guys. They're built like absolute savages. But now watch their training that's being run by a sport coach in a quote unquote, I don't know if this is considered like the Caucasus Mountains, the Russian mountains. You're asking the wrong guy. But the Soviets had physical preparation coaches, strength coaches. They grew up with the kids. They put the most experienced coaches with the youth so that they would build up their youth athletes who would then become what's called a model athlete. So by the time the athlete was 15, 16 years old, he or she was extremely easy to train and other things back then. The sport coaches in the Soviet Union would get a master's degree and a PhD in something very, very deep and detailed in their sport. So, for example, I believe Alexander Karelin has his PhD thesis was in defending the full body lock suplex throw. And I believe he has a PhD in law. And I would read books such as this one, Soviet Training and Recovery Methods. And they would talk about a track and field coach who would get a master's in the triple long jump or a master's in the impact of squatting or the snatch of the triple long jump, something, an inch wide and a mile deep. Well, these guys look like their national team. And you could see they're not really training anything fancy. And I think it's moving a little bit slow because I'm on the Zoom, but that's not a clean. That's just a shitty deadlift into a standing reverse curl. Okay, let's see if I can refresh this. We have the good old plate workout, which are really some of the dumbest workouts. They don't really help wrestlers. They might aid a little bit of muscular endurance, but all the wrestling they're doing is already building muscular endurance. You could see the positioning of the body is horrible. Hunched over, squatting here. We're going to see that you could see the kettlebells in the back. So they have the equipment. And this is what happens is people think that they are experts at doing something, but it's not really the case. The Soviets had it the right way, meaning, I'm going to open up this page, meaning they didn't dad didn't pick their son or daughter's sport because of what they did as a kid. I love baseball. Now you will be in baseball. No, the young athletes were exposed to a variety of sports. And of course, they all did introductory gymnastics training. They all could do cartwheels, tumbling, rope climbing, pull ups, push ups, jumping, jumping over obstacles, training outdoors. And then the athlete was moved into a sport according to what their physical structure were, what they what and who they were emotionally and psychologically. So if the kid was hot tempered, he'd obviously be a wrestler or some sort of a combative athlete. If the athlete was short, he would go into weightlifting. If the athlete was tall, it would be basketball, volleyball, swimming. They went into a sport that was best suited for their physical and mental structure and capabilities. And so let's check out some of these other videos that we could see. So a lot of views. Let's see if it's able to work here. Looks like we got some balance training. Can't really see what they're doing, maybe rolling out the feet, but I could see them in the back doing some jump training. Okay, see what we got here. Now training outdoors, which I think is extremely important, getting fresh air. I take athletes outdoors on the regular, whether it's at the underground strength gym or at the high school. You can see the push-ups are not even done that great. Okay, trunk is sagging, not really locking out the arms, but they're out there working. And most important thing, high level of wrestling. Okay, so when you're an athlete, number one is high level of skill. Okay, look at this tough training. Climbing stairs with a partner on your back. This gets you strong. This gets you tough. It's not fancy training, but it's friggin' tough. You can see the guys are, some of them are running the stairs, climbing stairs. There's certainly a little bit of danger involved in that. Let's see if we could get one more strength training video and see if we could give any feedback. But in a nutshell, Corey Schlesinger saying, hey, what if the sport coach learned GPP? That would be great. But a lot of them just don't have the deep understanding because it's just something that they're doing on the side. I think it could work. I think you have to be very deep in the research and the application. So if you don't train yourself, I think it's going to be very hard as a sport coach to understand anything, which is why our interns, they must train with the athletes every single night, a different athlete, male, female, different age group, in season, off season, preseason, working around different injuries, different mindset slash, emotional readiness of the athletes. We have them trained with all of them so they could really learn all the deeper details rather than say a squat is a squat. It's not as simple as people make it. And I think the reason why strength training has gotten more complicated, outside of the fact that some people just want to complicate stuff and put it online, is the fact that athletes move like shit today. And it's because they're of the early specialization. And also, things are not new. And somebody was, speaking with me yesterday. They're like, Zach, you're such a, you're a legend in strength and conditioning. I was like, dude, don't say that. They're like, you don't understand what you've done for other strength coaches. And I said, today, it's what, it's how you look. So I'm not, shredded to the bone. All right. Um, I don't look like a Greek god. And so things that I did 20 plus years ago, sandbag training, training with Indian clubs. I remember getting Indian clubs from different companies around '07. 20 years later, it's popular. What makes it popular? Who is using it? What is their legend? Are they ripped? Do they look like a Greek god? People judge you on those things. And so I know I was talking about the Soviet training, the Russian training. From my experience, hate to break it to Corey, I have not seen too many sport coaches who are great at the physical preparation side. Some of them may have read a lot of books, watched a lot of videos, but they don't train themselves. And so it's this kind of blanket application. But I do say this all the time. Um, Sleds, carries, calisthenics. If those things were implemented, a lot of teams would be really, really fit, utilizing like a bodyweight bodybuilding training program, dragging sleds, sprinting with sleds, and carrying different things, sandbags, heavy dumbbells, heavy kettlebells. Your athletes could get extremely strong, but they got to believe in the program and the coach has to implement it all the time. All right, next question. And so, Griffin, and when is the OG lifting session going to take place? Edison was a special place. Tough athletes, tough kids, and it's just not the way things are anymore. It's really not. And I'll probably dig into that at least a little bit when I speak at Underground Strength Con about how the gym business has changed, how the underground strength gym has changed, and how people have changed, and how that's kind of made us change the way we do business. Okay. This question's from Johnny. My son wants to change his ways of eating sugar and not working out, but he is stuck. So people are going to want a fancy answer here. I do not have a fancy answer. Drink some coffee. He's stuck for probably 99 reasons. Okay. Number one, he doesn't want to change that badly. It's that simple. Number two, what's in the house? If there's bad food in the house, he's going to go for the bad food. Number three, if he's out and about driving and he chooses to go and eat fast food, he does not want to change. And with regards to training, aka working out, I don't care what somebody does when they're new. You know, if it's an adult, a lot of times I say just start with walking. Wake up and walk 15 to 20 minutes. After dinner, walk 15 to 20 minutes. Some people need to go to a gym and just use all the machines. The problem with gyms of today is they're not inspiring. They're not inspiring like they were in the 80s and early 90s. If I go to a gym today, people are doing at the gym exactly what they would do at home on the couch. They're laying on machines on their couch. And Tim Grover, who wrote the book Relentless, he was the strength coach for Michael Jordan back in the day. He said, man, when you check into a gym, they should kind of identify you like with a wristband or some sort of a lanyard. You should go to the gym and say, hey, I'm here to socialize. Okay, socialize people. You go there. I am here to text message and sit on my phone. Okay, you people go there. I am here to train. Ah, you people, you go right here. The people who want to socialize should get the fuck out of the gym, get out and go somewhere else. The people who want to sit on their phone, get the fuck out of the gym and don't come to the gym. The gym is for training. And nowadays, you go to a gym, you see how I'm wearing these headphones. This is what everybody's doing. Who's going to inspire your son? He's going to go to a gym and everybody's sitting and laying on machines, touching their phone. Tell me how that inspires you to change. When I would go to a gym, all these gyms, I went to many gyms as a kid. I'd have my parents take me everywhere. Then when I got my license, I went to all the different gyms. You'd go into a gym and you'd look around and see everybody working. There would always be one big mouth talker or one weirdo who'd be like reading the newspaper. One out of, 20, 40, 50 people in the gym. And everybody made fun of those people. And eventually they kicked those people out. They were ostracized. But you would see the strongest guys and you were inspired and you'd start looking at them and trying to copy what they would do. You'd see somebody who was ripped and maybe you could train hard enough to earn some respect where they nod their head to you. Then you could ask them some nutrition and dieting questions. But when you go to most gyms today, they are uninspiring. They are. And so it's going to be very hard for somebody who doesn't have that internal motor of inspiration to go somewhere else and get fired up. Like, what gym am I going to go to that gets me fired up? In New Jersey, you have a few locations called the Attilis Gym. There's a cool gym in my area called the Fitness Shop. And usually I hear the music, but it's a pretty good gym. I like it. But most gyms, you can't even like build camaraderie with anybody because they all got their AirPods in. And so that's why, we have Gladiator Strong. A lot of dudes training in their house, training in their garage, just killing it without the need for anybody to know about it. And so you want to change, you have to just change. Okay. You have to thrust yourself into the fire and stop looking for fancy answers. That's it. That's all the questions I got. One question was kind of dumb. I'm not going to answer it. Go to zachstrength.com, get your free training courses, and do the damn thing. Go to undergroundstrengthcon.com, sign up before price goes up. If you're a coach of any kind, it's going to be extremely, extremely powerful. We'll see you guys later. Leave a 5-star review. I haven't seen 5-star reviews for a while. That shows you how lazy people are. Let's check it out. I'm going to go on Strong Life Podcast. I think the last review was a month ago, which is crazy. I release one episode every week, and I always say, man, it's crazy that you got to ask people for reviews. July 28th. July 28th from Zombie Headquarters. Been following Zach since the early days. He always has great info, great guests, and guidance for me and for my kids as we've all evolved through our training, sports, and phases of life. I appreciate this man, and so should you. What's interesting is, if you are kind of learning how people operate, people will take, and they just won't say thanks. They won't leave a 5-star review. People will ask me questions that they could get answered on my blog at zachevanesh.com. You got business questions? Search business. You got questions on training for football, wrestling, baseball, any of that stuff? Training your kid, training your son, training a teenager, training a youth athlete, starting a business, growing a business, dealing with haters? zachevanesh.com. And I got to tell you something. All those thousands of blog posts, articles, videos, podcasts, they're so expensive. They're free. I'll see you over there, guys. Thanks for leaving a review. The next review, that's awesome. We'll get a free training course. I'll announce it on the next episode. I'm out of here.